We are living in a simulation. The simulation theory was first proposed in 2003 by philosopher Nick Bostrom. Bostrom predicted that there is a good likelihood that humanity as a whole will advance to the point where we can mimic our ancestors in a simulation, just like we do now with computer games. Bostrom gives three alternative explanations and argues that at least one of them is almost certainly true. The first, we're living in a computer simulation. The second, advanced civilizations have no interest in simulating us. And finally, civilizations are destroyed before they reach capabilities of simulating consciousness. Bostrom proposed that we could be living in one of the thousands of simulated realities, at the mercy of whoever is out there running the simulations. The point of submitting three hypotheses is that Bostrom argues that one must be true. So what if?
This is about the craziest theory that you will ever hear. So as you know, 2020 was a crazy year and a lot of people felt like maybe we were in a different dimension. Honestly, maybe they were right. The ball drop was a minute late, meaning it took a minute for us to get back into our normal dimension. Hear me out. If you go on Google and type how many days until 2021, it says 5 hours, 3 minutes. Now, if you ask Siri how many days until 2021, she says it's 357 days until then. Now, if you get this Christmas countdown, it says 51 days, 8 hours, 25 minutes until Christmas. None of this makes sense at all.
You could actually control squirrels by using your hand in a wave motion, and you could see that the squirrel comes towards me.
I don't believe this TikTok voodoo magic. Ain't no way you could control a squirrel with a hand motion. That would mean we're in some kind of simulation or... Ain't no way. Ain't no way.
Truth in plain sight.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask, where the hell am I?
Long story, but I need you to follow me to the assassination floor for no reason. Let's see, where is it?
If we just take this service hallway...
Hey, who's this handsome man about town? I like the cut of your jib, fella. Me too. Me three. Let's get this party started.
Y'all, I think there's a glitch in the simulation again. A woman in Minnesota took a photo while she was driving of this cloud formation that looks like a giant tsunami. Like, tell me that does not look like the ocean. I'm telling y'all, it's a glitch in the matrix.
Does transportation show that we're in a simulation? Okay, so we know buses are huge and cars are not as big. Like your wingspan can probably reach both sides of the car, but for buses, they're super long. You could probably lay across and not touch one side or the other. So basically there are 2 seats on this side, 2 seats on that side, plus an aisle. But on the road, buses are almost the same width as SUVs. This car is a sedan, but you can almost see that it takes up the whole road. But this is the inside of the SUV. There are arguments that basically buses sit on top of the wheel, which is why there's more width to them. But when you look inside the bus, it's super big. And when you look inside a car, it's not. So are we in a simulation?
We have further proof that we live in a simulation. And this happened to me yesterday.
Would you talk to an old person on the street? That's all the proof you need, dude.
No,
walk
but
up to a random old person and just have a conversation with them.
Dude, that's a good point.
They cannot be real, dude.
Alexa, what day is it?
It's Saturday, January 2nd.
When does 2020 end?
2020 ends on December 31st, 2020 in 3 days.
Huh. Anybody else's Alexa do that?
If human beings keep going, we definitely will create a simulation. It's just a matter of time. So if that's the case, how do we know that we're not in one already? And we really don't. Every day we go to sleep. And every day we wake up and we assume and we have faith that all that stuff that we remember is really how life went on before we were awake. But we really don't know. According to probability theory, it's more likely that we're in a simulation.
Maybe that's true.
You're assuming that all of the stuff that you know and all the stuff that you experience is 100% real. We are within 100 years away from making something that's indiscernible from what we experience every day. And that's inevitable. Unless we get disrupted by nature, unless we get hit with an asteroid or start a nuclear war, it's inevitable that technology reaches a point where simulation's possible.
Your mind has been lying to you. Check this out.
Keep staring at the black dot in the center of the image and I'll explain how your brain lies to you and constantly makes things up. As you keep focusing on the black dot, the cone cells in your retina become desensitized to the colors you can see. As it tones down the oranges and purples, it will tone up the colors that are complementary to these. So when I change the image to black and white, your brain will fill in the gaps with these complementary colors to maintain the illusion of normality. Life is a lie.
Are we a simulation inside of a simulation, or are there actual biological beings that are controlling the simulation?
That's a great question. If you look at the way the universe or the multiverse would be set up, it's almost like cells in a human body. Because you look at the cells in our body, it's like a multiverse inside of us. And so it's like we're living in a multiverse which is full of cells. Each universe could be a cell. It could be biological. It could be that we're in a biological body. It could be that we're in a software program. I mean, there's so many possibilities. It's almost endless. But I do know that the fundamental basis of what we're living in is light. Everything you could think of is only a light wave. Matter of fact, due to wave-particle duality, everything only exists as a wave first and then collapses into what we appear to be the illusion of solid matter later. Like right now, you're here. Your home exists as a wave of potentials. It doesn't even exist as a solid structure. Now, if somebody sees it, it collapses instantaneously into a solid structure known as your house. Your house has a specific frequency because of the way the atoms were stacked. So it always collapses into the same structure. Everything you can't see exists as waves, just like in a video game. The next frame only appears when you need it to. We're living in that type of a simulation.
Is this you? Is Elon Musk right that we could be characters in a video game? Let's look at the science. When we think of the external world, at least at the macro level, we think of classical Newtonian mechanics, such as laws of gravity, motion, etc. But when you get down to the quantum level, phenomena exist in a state of superposition, meaning a multitude of states simultaneously, unless measured. This is known as the observer effect. So it is as if the particles or phenomena are cognizant of the fact that they are being measured, which is really bizarre. So are we some sort of character, some super sophisticated Super Marios inside some sort of video game? Maybe our future is already here, and it's our future progeny playing us out in some sort of ancestral simulation, learning about their history. What do you think? Is reality simulated?
Unreal Engine 5.1 pretty much proves we're living in a simulation. I mean, just look at it. These graphics just keep getting better, and they're seriously starting to trick my brain. According to simulation theory, if we ever get to a point in which we can't tell video game graphics apart from reality, and we're clearly starting to get there, then that essentially 100% confirms we are currently living in a simulation. The idea here is that any civilization advanced enough to create a VR world that is a one-to-one replica to reality will inevitably make such a simulation of the entire universe, complete with sentient life that believes itself to be real, just like you and me. So if we end up making a simulation that is a one-to-one replica of reality, including planets, humans, physics, the entire universe, then that simulation that we make is also guaranteed to make its own simulation since it was simulated after us. Think simulation meets inception, a simulation inside of a simulation. So then if that's the case, this pattern of creating simulations within simulations will repeat forever inside this inevitable simulation chain. So then after all this infinite simulation nonsense, we essentially have one base reality and an infinite amount of simulated realities. Which means the chances of this current reality we're living in is the base reality is 1 over infinity. Which for those of you who don't understand math, 1 over infinity is 0%. So there is a 0% chance that we're living in the base reality, which is the only real reality, and a 100% chance that we're living in a simulated one. Yo, did that make sense? Because I don't even know this rabbit hole we just went down. Unplug from the Matrix, bro.
Ain't no way everyone here is a real person. Life is a simulation and a legitimate professor has proved it. James Gates, a theoretical physicist at MIT with 2 bachelor degrees and a PhD, found literal computer code embedded in the most fundamental building blocks of reality called strings. Now, string theory is a tough one, but I'm gonna break it down for you in a way that an 11-year-old would understand. So if you don't get this, hey, go back to grade 5, bro. Alright, so we got my boy Einstein's theory of general relativity, which is basically just a theory of everything big. Planets, gravity, the universe, all the way back to the Big Bang. Then we got the new kid in town, quantum physics. This is the theory of everything small, like particles, atoms, and molecules, where the general laws of physics like gravity don't apply anymore. The same is true the other way around. Quantum laws don't apply to regular-sized physics. So we got general relativity, everything big, and quantum physics, everything small. Like, yo, dig. But both of these realms have the same parent, the Big Bang, at which point everything that is now big used to be small. If the small can become big, then quantum and general relativity need some sort of theory that can unify them. That is string theory. What happens to the big when it's small? What happens when you zoom into an atom? You see protons and neutrons in the center with electrons all around it. Now, what about inside a neutron? Even smaller particles called quarks. So how deep does the scale go? Conventional science will tell you there's nothing inside these quarks. But string theory suggests there's a tiny filament or a string of pure energy that exists inside of them. And just like the string of a guitar vibrates and creates different sound based on its shape and tension, the strings in string theory vibrate. But instead of sound, they produce matter in the form of particles. This completely changes the way you look at the world. Every particle in the universe is just a string vibrating at a different frequency. And every vibrational pattern has its own associated particle. So if you break anything down far enough, we're all just energy vibrating at differing wavelengths to form matter. Although it's still just a theory, this would link general relativity to the quantum realm and form what is known as the theory of everything. Okay, yeah, cool. Now where is this computer code found? When Dr. James Gates took a look at a set of equations derived from string theory, he found binary code. Error-correcting code used for compressing data on a computer. A sequence of ones and zeros, the same code that is used by popular search engines, which, according to him, who has a PhD in theoretical physics from MIT, doesn't just resemble computer code, it literally is computer code. Meaning, if we break matter and energy down far enough, we eventually find compressing computer code etched into the very fabric of reality. So, who wrote this code? Are we living in, dare I say, a simulation?
There's obviously a higher power. I call it a matrix. Now, you might ask who created the simulation. I don't think me, you, or anyone else on this planet have the intelligence to even figure that one out. So what you would call God, I would call this the matrix, a simulation.
When you say simulation, what do you mean by that? Like,
it's not like the movie The Matrix where you have something adjusted to your neck and stuff like that. It's more like the bodies we're in are like organic portals. And me and you and everyone else has souls. And when our souls go into our organic portals, certain skill sets that we're going to have to conquer so we can get to the next level of the matrix. Now, some people, they obviously fail. So when you fail a reincarnation, you got to go back and do it again.
Proof we live in a simulation.
It did not render yet. It has not rendered yet. Bruh, it looks fake.
Yo, what if we're in that machine right now? What do you mean? Oh, and us in the future is back in. Okay, this is weird. This is really weird. Because sometimes when I wake up, I feel like I'm a different person. What do you mean? Not that I do things differently, but I feel like, man, is this really who I was yesterday?
But yo, it's probably like a different player that's using your machine.
That's what I'm thinking, bro.
It's just another person using like the Carlos machine, and that's why you feel different.
I said this before to Yavin. I told him, like, imagine you're playing a game.
Yeah.
Let's say you're playing Legend of Zelda, right? You pick up the controller, you're Link. Link in the game still thinks he's Link.
He's Link. Yo, that's how
Link in the game still thinks he's Link.
That's probably how it... Bro.
Right?
Imagine, no, imagine if that's us.
Exactly.
And people are just playing us.
Exactly.
There's like a whole bunch of people playing Josh, and a whole bunch of people playing Carlos.
But we're still that person.
Yeah, and that's what, like they think of us of just like as a character.
Yeah.
Like they don't think of us as like living. Yo, imagine if Link's actually living, bro. Like in his world.
The universe is 13.8 billion years old. Civilization is 7,000 or 8,000 years old. If you count it from the first writing, this is nothing. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then games will be indistinguishable from reality. Therefore, we are most likely in a simulation.
This is a targeting of human fertility, of human 1.0, because they're phasing it out. This is a simulation. And the limits of the simulation at this level of it is the speed of light. When you create a computer game, virtual reality game, the creator writes the rules. What would we call that in the case of this being a simulation? The laws of physics. When you come into this reality, the human world, what are they telling you from cradle to grave to self-identify yourself with? They're saying you are a man, you are a woman, you are something in between, you are this sexuality, you are that race, you are this religion, you are that income bracket. All these labels, that's who you are. But if you self-identify with those labels, you're self-identifying with limitation. We can only see this tiny narrow band of frequency called visible light. And the force that is manipulating human society is operating outside the band of frequency that we can see.
So ultimately, how do we escape the trap? Being aware of it, then changing your energy, trying to vibrate at a higher energy source.
The way out of the trap is to realize there is no trap. If you self-identify with being that level of spirit that is beyond the simulation, that level of spirit that is all that is, has been, and ever can be, that is eternal, indestructible, and infinite, and that's who you are, then you're out here. Know who you are, and it's over. Believe who they want you to believe you are. Tyranny.
So there's a hat down there. I grab it, right? I pull it out. I put it on this couch. Done. If I go back down, new one. Where is it on the fucking couch? Watch. I leave it. I look back down. New fucking hat. You're seeing this. No hat.
Do we live in a simulation? Scientists, even physicists suggest that we live in a simulation. Even Elon Musk said it himself.
No, there's a 1 in billions chance that this is based reality.
There's even CIA documents explaining we live in a universal hologram. It literally says that the human mind is a hologram and that our consciousness is projecting our reality in real time. And the only reason this feels so real is because of our 5 senses. And if this is true like I think it is, nothing is set in stone. You can literally change your reality in front of you just by using the most powerful tool we have, our brain. The first law of mentalism talks about how all things are created from our mind, our consciousness. Think of your consciousness in your mind as a projector, projecting reality in real time. Our consciousness inside of our brain holds memory. Just like with projectors and movie players, your mind that holds memory is like a projector, projecting reality and changing things. If you don't like the reality you live in, change your mind and change your thoughts. Anyways, follow for more. I love y'all.
Did you know that there are more possible iterations of a game of chess than there are atoms in the observable universe? The number of possible chess games is estimated to be around 10 circumflex 120, while the number of atoms in the observable universe is estimated to be around 10 circumflex 80. This means that it's practically impossible to play the same game of chess twice, and every game is a unique and complex experience. There is a theory in physics called the holographic principle, which suggests that our entire universe could be a holographic projection. This theory proposes that the information that makes up the 3-dimensional universe is actually encoded on a 2-dimensional surface at the edge of the universe. In other words, our entire universe could be like a hologram, with the appearance of 3 dimensions being an illusion. The universe appears to be expanding at an accelerating rate, and scientists don't yet understand why. In fact, the majority of the universe is made up of a mysterious substance called dark energy, which is causing this accelerated expansion. Dark energy is thought to make up around 68% of the universe, while another 27% is made up of another mysterious substance called dark matter. Only 5% of the universe is made up of the matter that we can see and interact with. This means that the vast majority of the universe is made up of substances that we don't yet understand, and this has profound implications for our understanding of the nature of reality and the universe itself. Our perception of time is relative and can be affected by gravity. According to Einstein's theory of relativity, time passes more slowly in strong gravitational fields. This means that someone on the surface of a massive planet or near a black hole would experience time passing slower than someone far away from these objects. In fact, GPS satellites have to take into account this effect because they are in weaker gravitational fields than us on Earth, and their clocks tick faster than clocks on Earth. This seems to imply that the simulation has limits that can bend and even broken. According to our current understanding of physics, nothing can travel faster than the speed of light in a vacuum, which is approximately 299,792,458 meters per second. This is because as an object approaches the speed of light, its mass would increase towards infinity, requiring an infinite amount of energy to accelerate it further.
we're on this planet, and Einstein's physics showed it, Max Planck's physics showed it, there's at least 12 dimensions. And now that's why all the top scientists and billionaires are coming out saying it's a false hologram. It is artificial. The computers are scanning it and finding tension points where it's artificially projected and gravity's bleeding in to this universe.
Back in the early 1970s, Stephen Hawking wrote down an astonishing equation. It would include relativity, it would include quantum mechanics, and it would include information. Hawking's rather simple equation brought us a step closer to understanding the relationship with quantum physics and black holes.
When an object crosses over the edge of a black hole, its event horizon, the object enters a realm basically of empty space, of darkness, and it continues to be dragged toward the center of the black hole, toward what we call the singularity, where it gets crushed out of existence. Every object, in some sense, contains information because it contains a very specific arrangement of particles. So where is the information that describes the arrangement of those particles? Where does it go?
Hawking's description of this process was that the energy remains, but the information disappears.
For many years, for decades, people wondered, is Hawking right? Is the information obliterated and disappears from the universe, or is it still there and perhaps can be in some way retrieved?
The destruction of information was counterintuitive, and it didn't match the rest of the things we knew. In all parts of physics, we had a situation where information doesn't get destroyed. So it was a bit puzzling.
This debate furiously went back and forth up through the 80s and into the 90s when people finally began to articulate this new principle, this holographic principle. And what it said is that all the things that were falling inside a black hole were somehow captured in a preserved image at the horizon itself.
So if the information is not lost on the surface, the information is not lost inside because they are equivalent.
All of the information about those objects, what they were like in their three-dimensional existence, was preserved or encoded on the surface of the black hole. And that's a little bit like a hologram.
Well, that suggests that maybe that idea may apply more broadly to the universe as a whole. Maybe the three-dimensional objects, us, everything in the world around us, maybe all of the information in these objects is carried, is smeared around a distant two-dimensional surface that surrounds us, and we're just in some sense a holographic projection of that distant data.
The holographic principle tells us something quite astonishing. It says that our ideas of volume, of the real world in a sense, might be a kind of illusion.
The holographic principle is a fascinating and still somewhat controversial idea in physics that suggests that the information that makes up the three-dimensional universe is actually encoded on a two-dimensional surface. This principle originated from the study of black holes, which are incredibly dense objects with such strong gravitational fields that not even light can escape their gravitational pull. The holographic principle has important implications for our understanding of black holes. According to the theory, the event horizon of a black hole acts as a two-dimensional surface that encodes all of the information about the matter that has fallen into the black hole. This means that the information is not destroyed, as previously thought, but is actually preserved on the surface of the black hole. The idea is that all of the information that falls into a black hole is stored on its event horizon, which is the boundary surrounding the black hole from which nothing can escape. This means that the information that makes up a three-dimensional object can be represented on a two-dimensional surface. This idea was later extended to suggest that our entire universe could be like a hologram, with the appearance of three dimensions being an illusion. So, if reality really is just a holographic projection or simulation, then this begs the question, what is base reality? One possibility is that base reality is a physical universe that exists independently of any conscious observers. In this scenario, our universe and everything in it, including consciousness, is simply a product of physical laws operating in the base reality, Another possibility is that base reality is a non-physical or spiritual realm, which may be accessible to conscious beings through meditation, altered states of consciousness, or other means. This idea is often associated with religious or mystical traditions. A third possibility is that base reality is a simulation or virtual reality, created by a more advanced civilization or intelligence. This idea has gained traction in recent years, in part due to the growing popularity of video games and virtual reality technology. Finally, some scientists and philosophers have suggested that base reality may be simply unknowable or fundamentally beyond human understanding.